Part 80. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 791. Looking at these people, Wang Feng sighed softly and said, "Alas! It seems that this guy is late. Anyway, I have already said hello, so you can't blame me." Then, Wang Feng stood up gently. Seeing Wang Feng stand up, all the police shouted, "Don't move." But they didn't shoot, because Ford was impatient and stupid. If he just said that Wang Feng and his friends entered the country illegally and attacked the police, they were dangerous people, then maybe these police would just shoot directly. Anyway, with Ford's words, even if they shot the wrong person, Ford would naturally take the blame. But Ford said that Wang Feng was a spy, and this case was a big deal. Who knows if there are other people behind them? In this case, we must try to catch them alive to see if we can dig out more people. At this time, Ford also reacted, but he had no way to change his words now, so he sneaked to a companion who was lying on the ground pretending to be dead because of a kick from Zhang Xiu, and secretly took his gun in his hand. The guys in suits did not move at this time, but surrounded Nidade and protected him. Fortunately, Nidade was just slapped in the face, and he was not dead. But at this time, Nidade was looking at Zhang Xiu with resentment. This was the first time he was beaten by a woman since he grew up. He had made up his mind that after they were locked up, he must bribe the prison guards and bring this woman back to let her know the consequences of slapping herself. At this time, Ford, who was standing at the back of the police, had quietly raised his gun and aimed at Wang Feng. Although it was Zhang Xiu who took action, it was obvious that the leader of the four was Wang Feng, so naturally, the king had to be captured first. Wang Feng would naturally not miss his little move, but at this time, other policemen were already shouting, asking Wang Feng and his men to raise their hands and squat on the ground. Bang! Ford finally aimed at Wang Feng and fired, and his gunshot undoubtedly stimulated the other policemen. The policemen, who were already highly nervous, immediately shot at Wang Feng and his men. As for the matter of catching them alive, they obviously had forgotten it. The dense gunshots, mixed with the screams of other people in the hotel, suddenly rang out, and the scene suddenly became extremely chaotic. At this time, a group of soldiers with live ammunition rushed in, shouting, "Don't move! Put down your weapons and raise your hands." The policemen who were shooting randomly looked back and were shocked, because the uniforms on these soldiers were the uniforms of the Royal Guard. The captain of the police team was a little puzzled. There were only 4 people. Even if they were all spies, they would not dispatch the Royal Guard, right? The Royal Guards are the most elite soldiers selected by the Phelan royal family from the soldiers across the country. There are only 500 people in the entire Phelan. Not to mention their skills, they are also extremely powerful because they symbolize the royal family. Not to mention that he is a captain, even their director would never dare to stop them when he sees them. "Hello. I am." The captain went to the Royal Guards and was about to introduce himself when a soldier of the Royal Guards hit him in the face with a gun butt. "Everyone, put down your weapons and raise your hands." A solemn voice sounded. The captain was hit by a gun butt for no reason, and his eyes were full of stars, and 2 of his back teeth were broken. But he didn't dare to resist at all. He simply lay on the ground and didn't get up. He dropped the gun in his hand and raised his hands high. There was no way. If he didn't put down his weapon, the Royal Guards might really shoot him. Seeing that these Royal Guards even hit their own people, the others immediately knelt on the ground and raised their hands. Even Nidade's people all threw their weapons on the ground, then knelt on their knees and raised their hands. It is true that the Nida family is the richest in the world, but, no matter how powerful they are, they dare not confront the royal family. It was not until then that the police found that there was no one in the place where they had just fired randomly, and there was no blood on the ground. After turning around and searching for a long time, they found Wang Feng and others next to another table. They are still drinking tea, drinking tea? It's okay that they didn't hit them just now, but how can you have the mood to drink tea now? Didn't you see that our captain was hit because he put down his weapon too late? What on earth do these guys do? They are too careless, right? Nidade laughed in his heart. It seems that these guys are about to die. The royal guards don't care who you are. As long as you don't follow their orders, they really dare to kill people in public. But they were immediately surprised. The royal guards seemed to have not seen Wang Feng and the other four. They just treated them as invisible and drove all the others together. Even a few royal guards walked past their table without noticing them. When Nidade saw this scene, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Judging from the expressions on Wang Feng's group and the reaction of the royal guards, I am afraid that I have caused a lot of trouble this time. There was no way the royal guards could not see the four living people, and Wang Feng and the others were still so calm. Combining these two things, Nidade could only come to one conclusion, and that was, this time the royal guards were basically here to help Wang Feng and the four of them solve their troubles. Who are these four bumpkins? Can they actually mobilize the royal guard? Nidade remembered a phone call Wang Feng had made just now. Could it be that it was to the royal guard? Nidade never imagined that Wang Feng had just called the person with the most power on the planet. And this team of royal guards only came here first because of the close distance. The king of Phelan Kingdom had also arrived here at this time. As soon as he got off the plane, he saw Gauss Hicksing getting off another plane. Meet, Mr. Speaker. When the king of Phelan Kingdom saw even Gauss Hicksing coming, he suddenly broke into a cold sweat and couldn't speak fluently. Humph. You. Gauss Hicksing snorted coldly, without saying much, and asked directly, where is he? In the hotel restaurant. Don't worry, Speaker, although someone fired, the guard said that Mr. Wang and the others were not harmed and are safe. The king of Phelan Kingdom said quickly. Nonsense. I didn't know they were safe. Gauss Hicksing was furious. Do you think I asked you to come quickly because I wanted you to save them? I'm really trying to save you. Pig brain. Don't talk about a few lousy policemen. Even if you bring all the troops from across the country, you won't be able to hurt Mr. Wang even a hair. If you piss him off, just drive that space battleship around to your Phelan country. I think you won't even have a place to cry. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The king of Phelan Kingdom quickly expressed his gratitude. Shut up. Seeing that he had arrived at the restaurant, Gauss Hicksing quickly glared at the king of Phelan Kingdom to shut up, and then walked into the restaurant. Lao Gao. Seeing Gauss Hicksing, Wang Feng was stunned for a moment, then stood up and said with a smile. Why did you come here too? Nidade, who had been observing Wang Feng, saw the person coming clearly and heard Wang Feng's name to him. His legs suddenly softened and he collapsed to the ground. Who on the entire planet doesn't know Gauss Hicksing? This old man with a white beard who wears weird clothes and appears in the news every 3 days? And that guy actually called Lao Gao, the Supreme Speaker of the Home Star Freedom Alliance. Even the King of France would respectfully address Gauss Hicksing as Speaker. It's over. This time, my trap has become too big. Maybe my family will be destroyed soon. These 4 guys in ordinary clothes must be the people who recently founded the Empire of Hope in Australia. People at the bottom may not know about the Empire of Hope, but as a Nita family, of course we would not be unaware of this matter. At the beginning, the current head of the Nita family, Nita Yed's father, Nita Svo, also sent a large sum of money through the king of Phelan Kingdom. It's just that because their level is not enough, they were not able to visit Ozhu in person. Otherwise, if he had seen Wang Feng, even if he had given Nidade 100 courages, he would not have dared to do what he did before. Ha 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 ha. Mr. Wang, I am telling the truth, I am not here because I am worried about you, but because I am afraid that you will bring down this idiot's Phelan kingdom. Gao's Hixing laughed, then came over and gave Wang Feng a hug. Ha ha. Now that you have opened your mouth, Lao Gao, I can't help but give you this face no matter what you say. Wang Feng also smiled and nodded secretly in his heart. Gao's Hixing's words really make people feel comfortable. If he said he was worried about Wang Feng, it would be too false. Even if Wang Feng didn't say it, he would scold him for being hypocritical in his heart. But this guy got straight to the point and said directly that he was afraid that Wang Feng would defeat Phelan Guo. While begging for mercy without leaving any trace, he also directly flattered Wang Feng, making it difficult for Wang Feng to refuse. However, Wang Feng had no intention of doing anything to the Phelan kingdom. After all, this was just something done by some small figures in the Phelan kingdom. Of course, Wang Feng would not let those scumbags off easily. Lao Gao. It's just the right time for you to come. I happen to have something to trouble you with. Wang Feng looked at Gao's Hixing and smiled. Can you ask me something? Gao's Hixing was stunned for a moment, and then he immediately puffed up his chest and shouted. Although, there is absolutely no problem. Puff. Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu couldn't help but laugh when they saw that the most powerful person on their home planet was actually beating his chest to confirm his promise like a street gangster. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 792. Gao's Hixing didn't care about the attitudes of the two women. He knew that he would rather offend Wang Feng than offend his woman. If he offended Wang Feng, he might be able to laugh it off. If he offended Lu Wanting, he would have to die. A man's revenge, laugh it off. A woman's revenge, never rest until death. Old Gao. Wang Feng pointed to some fragments on the ground and said. I'm afraid you have to get me another pass, and, it's better to get a more useful one. Is the one you gave me before fake? Why did the policeman take it and tear it up after taking a look? Puff. When Ford heard what Wang Feng said, he spurted out a mouthful of blood. Brother, when did I see it? If I had seen it, I wouldn't dare to tear it up even if I had 1,000 courage. Now Ford finally understood how powerful Wang Feng was. Although he was not a high-ranking official, he didn't know about the Hope Empire. But on the mother planet, he had not heard of anyone who dared to call the Supreme Speaker Lao Gao. And looking at the two people now, it seems that the speaker is quite polite to Wang Feng, but Wang Feng is more casual. This attitude, even ordinary people can see that between the two, Wang Feng occupies a dominant position. Gao's Hixing looked in the direction of Wang Feng's finger, and suddenly a black line on his head. Without picking it up, he knew that those fragments were the passes signed by himself. Originally thought that with the pass signed by him, Wang Feng should be able to go anywhere unimpeded, but he didn't expect that this was the first city they came to, and it was torn up by someone. Gao's Hixing suddenly felt as if he had been slapped several times, and his face was burning. Goodies! Come here! Gao's Hixing roared loudly. Goodies was the name of the king of Phelan. He was standing at the door at this time, and he didn't even dare to come in, for fear that Wang Feng's anger had not subsided, and he would be unlucky. He wanted to wait for Gao's Hixing to persuade Wang Feng to calm down a little, and then come up to see Wang Feng. But now hearing Gao's Hixing's roar, Goodies was a little dumbfounded. What's the situation? Aren't you coming to persuade people to calm down? Why do you sound angry now? What the hell is this? But Goodies didn't dare not go in. This is definitely not evasive. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Wang. I'm sorry, the little king didn't control his subordinates strictly, they were blind and didn't know Mr. Wang, so they offended you. Goodies came in and quickly admitted his mistake, trying to leave a good impression on Wang Feng. Goodies. Your Phelan country is really good. When did you leave the Free Federation? Wang Feng didn't say anything, but Gau's Hicksing said coldly on the side. Ah! Cooties was dumbfounded. Gau's Hicksing's hat was a bit too big. In fact, the current mother planet is equivalent to a country, that is, the Free Alliance. And other countries are equivalent to provinces and cities under the Free Alliance. Gau's Hicksing's words are undoubtedly asking whether the Phelan Kingdom has separated from the country and become independent. If this hat is really put on, let alone Cooties, the entire Phelan Kingdom can't bear it. Mr. Speaker. I dare not. Who made this rumor? Cooties was about to cry. Then, why does the pass I signed in person not work in your Phelan Kingdom? Do I need to ask for your consent next time I come to Phelan Kingdom, otherwise, it will be considered illegal entry? Gau's Hicksing still said with a cold face. He was also very angry about his pass being torn off. He had never signed this thing in person. Because this little thing didn't need him to take care of it at all. Now, in order to leave a good impression on Wang Feng, he signed 4 passes for the first time, but they were torn up. How could he not be angry? People like them already have everything, and they just want to save face. But now his face has been torn into pieces and thrown on the ground. How can Gau's Hicksing still look at Cootie well? Ah! Pass. You signed it in person. Cootie was stunned for a while. He had never heard that the speaker would sign a pass in person. But turning his head and following Gau's Hicksing's gaze, Cootie finally found the fragments of the passes. Not caring that his people were watching, Cootie crawled and grabbed the fragments, looking at them one by one. Finally, on one of the fragments, he found Gau's Hicksing's signature. Of course, he was familiar with this signature. Who? That bastard tore this into pieces. Cootie shouted angrily, "This idiot, you are asking for death, why are you dragging me down?" However, at this time, Ford had already fainted from fear, so naturally no one stood up to admit it. No one is going to say it, right? Okay. Very good. Cootie's face was gloomy. Royal Guards, since no one admits it, drag them all out. All of them will be executed. Your Majesty. It's Ford. It's Officer Ford. When Nidate heard that they were all going to be dragged out and executed, he was shocked and then climbed up and shouted loudly. Ford. Curtis naturally didn't know who Ford was, so he looked at the policeman. Since they were police officers, they should know each other, right? The captain, who had been hit by a gun but quickly crawled over to Ford, pointed at him and said, "Your Majesty, this is Officer Ford. We were also attracted by him." Shut up. Cootie had time to listen to this idiot's defense and shouted directly, "Wake him up." A group of police officers quickly choked and beat Ford to wake him up. After Ford woke up, he opened his eyes and saw Curtis. He quickly knelt down and kowtowed. "Your Majesty, spare your life. Your Majesty, spare your life. Did you tear this?" Cootie raised the fragment in his hand and asked gloomily. "This is like this, at that time." Ford was excited, and then said aloud, "Just say yes or no. Where does all this nonsense come from?" Curtis shouted again. "Yes." Ford closed his eyes in despair. He knew that his life would definitely not be saved. Cootie looked at Gau's Hicksing and Wang Feng, but found that they had actually sat down and were chatting casually, and no one paid attention to what was going on here. Cootie finally breathed a sigh of relief secretly. Judging from what they mean, they should leave all the matters here to themselves. As long as they handle it well, then at least Phelan will not be affected. As for these guys in front of me, now as long as they can protect themselves, they will all die, and they must die to satisfy Wang Feng. Thinking of this, Cootie looked around and suddenly found a royal member looking at this from a distance. "Come here." Cootie waved to the royal member, because there were too many royal members, and Cooties didn't know this guy's name. This member of the royal family quickly ran over and bowed directly. "I have met His Majesty." "What are you doing here?" Cooties asked. "Your Majesty, I am the person in charge of the catering department of this hotel." The royal member replied respectfully. "Oh." Curtis then remembered that because this hotel is owned by the royal family, some members of the royal family are often sent here for internships to gain some management experience. "When did you come?" "Your Majesty, you arrived as soon as I arrived. I just saw you, you were in a hurry, so I didn't come over to say hello." "Your Majesty, please forgive me." This member of the royal family quickly explained to avoid His Majesty the King thinking that he did not even come to greet the King when he saw him, but had to wait for His Majesty's summons before coming. "Oh. Then it has nothing to do with you. Go down." Cooties couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. He originally thought that if this royal member had been here a long time ago, he might be able to know what happened from his mouth. Now that he knew that this boy had just arrived a little earlier than him, and probably didn't know as much as the royal guards, he waved his hand to send him away. "Yes. Your Majesty." The royal bowed, then turned and retired. Etc. Cooties turned around and saw Wang Feng and Gau's Hixing who were chatting, so he quickly stopped the royal family member again. "Go. Let the wine and food be prepared immediately at the back to entertain the speaker and his table. Remember, we cannot afford to offend everyone on that table." Cooties warned solemnly. "I understand. Don't worry, Your Majesty." The royal bowed again and then ran back. In fact, the kitchen can also be reached from the front, but this member of the royal family does not have the courage to pass through Gau's Hixing's table, so he would rather go around from the back. Cooties looked at the people kneeling on the ground. Some of these people were dining guests and had nothing to do with this matter. But Cooties can't let them go yet. At least he has to figure out all the things that just happened before he can decide whether to let those people go. "Who among you can clearly explain everything that happened after the gentleman arrived here?" Cooties looked at the diners and asked. "Remember, think carefully before answering. I don't need you to take sides. I want the facts. If anyone dares to deceive me on this matter, I will definitely destroy his entire clan." After hearing what Cooties said, these diners looked at me and I looked at you, and no one dared to stand up and speak. "I can." After a moment, a woman stood up. Unexpectedly, it was Mrs. Charlie. "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 793. Hearing this voice, even Wang Feng and the others who were chatting turned their heads and looked over, because they really couldn't forget the owner of this voice. Seeing that Mrs. Charlie actually asked to tell what happened, Wang Feng and others looked strange. Zhang Xiu snorted coldly and muttered. "This shrew, she actually has the guts to stand up." Afterwards, Zhang Xiu stood up and walked over. "Hey! That shrew! You want to tell this king what happened before, right? Then tell us first, what did you call us before?" Seeing Zhang Xiu appear, Mrs. Charlie's expression suddenly changed. The reason why she stood up on her own was because she felt something was not good. His Majesty the King and the Supreme Speaker of the Freedom Alliance are here, which shows that the identities of those who were insulted by him before are definitely not simple. Moreover, Wang Feng had told her before that he would thank her soon. Mrs. Richard did not expect that this would happen so quickly. Mrs. Richard knew that she had completely offended Wang Feng and the others, so she wanted to stand up and explain herself, at least slightly modifying the unpleasant words she used to scold the two women, and maybe she could save her life. But she didn't expect that as soon as she stood up, Zhang Xiu came over to her and asked her such a fatal question, which made her last bit of luck disappear. After hearing the conversation between the two and looking at Zhang Xiu's expression, if Cooties couldn't figure it out, he wouldn't have to be the king. Someone! Get this shrew over there! Cooties ordered loudly. Immediately, two royal guards dragged Mrs. Shari to the side with the police and Nidaid. Because now the people in the restaurant are divided into two groups. One group is the police and those from Nidaid. These people have offended Wang Feng and basically have no hope of survival. And the other wave is the diners who come to the restaurant to dine. These people should have no conflict with Wang Feng. After discovering Mrs. Charlie, Cooties thought for a while and asked Zhang Xiu again. Excuse me, are there anyone like this shrew here? Zhang Xiu looked at these people, and many people in the crowd suddenly turned pale. Because just now, because of the way Zhang Xiu and Lu Wanting looked, they either looked at them with contempt or slandered them in a low voice. It's just that they didn't go directly to the restaurant and ask them to be kicked out like Mrs. Charlie. But they also knew in their hearts that even so, as long as Zhang Xiu identified them now, they would definitely be in big trouble. Didn't you see that His Majesty the King was respectful to this woman? So now, while these people are scared, they are also filled with regret. You say that people look ugly when they eat, and it doesn't matter what your business is. It's your turn to look down on them. What's good now is that I am kneeling in front of others here, and as long as they move their fingers and point at me, my life may be gone. Trouble comes from the mouth. These people now truly understand the true meaning of these four words. Maybe your unintentional words will become your talisman. However, after Zhang Xiu looked at these people, he noticed the fear on their faces and in their eyes, and suddenly remembered that during the end of the world, the sisters in the Green Island camp had such a look of fear in their eyes. So my heart softened, and I slowly shook my head and said, there is none left. Afterwards, Zhang Xi walked back with waning interest. These three words of Zhang Xiu sounded like the sound of nature to those people's ears. While they were secretly grateful, they also secretly swore in their hearts that they would control their bad words in the future and stop making blind comments on things that had nothing to do with them. Otherwise, they might not be so lucky next time. Cooties also discovered something from the faces and expressions of those people, but since Zhang Xiu said he would not pursue the investigation, of course he would not continue to investigate. Perhaps it was because Zhang Xiu let them go, which made these people feel grateful, so after Zhang Xiu left, a couple suddenly stood up. Your Majesty. We came here before that gentleman and the others, so I saw the whole thing. We can assure His Majesty that there will never be a single exaggeration or distortion in our narrative. Okay. Then you tell me. Cooties nodded. Someone, bring them 2 chairs. Royal guards immediately moved 2 chairs for the couple to sit down. As for Cooties, although there were guards who moved a chair for him, he did not sit down. He just stood there and listened. As the couple tells, Cooties is also one of the strong men who has been transformed by Wang Feng. After all, he is also the head of a foreign country. In fact, after he came back, he had already passed the photos of Wang Feng and others to some senior officials in his country, just to avoid such misunderstandings. Just like before, after the royal guards came in, they told everyone to put down their weapons and raise their hands, but it was like they couldn't see Wang Feng and the others. It's because they have long remembered the image of Wang Feng and others, especially Wang Feng's long hair, which is simply too easy to recognize. On the mother planet, there are men with long hair, but it is quite difficult to find men with hair as long as Wang Feng's. Even girls' hair is rarely as long as Wang Feng's. Who knew that Wang Feng and his friends were so low-key and dressed ordinary to go shopping, but were despised by a restaurant manager and a shrew, and finally made such a big fuss that even the speaker was alarmed. These little people, of course, are not qualified to know the existence of Wang Feng, but it is precisely this kind of little people who became the main cause of this incident. The couple had a good memory, and as they said, they told the whole story without favoritism or distortion. When the couple was telling the story, even Gauss Hixing stopped chatting with Wang Feng, but listened carefully to the story. He wanted to get to know Wang Feng better through this incident so that he could contact him in the future. After listening to the whole story, even Cooties was so angry that he trembled all over. He didn't expect that such a dark thing would happen in his own country of Phelan. If it wasn't Wang Feng and his group who came today, but ordinary travelers, then the ending would be asshole. It's simply lawless. Cooties was furious. In fact, the head of any country doesn't want his country to have a dark side, but such things are inevitable. The head of state is not a god, he can't know everything that happens in his country. Gauss Hixing also frowned, but didn't say anything. After all, this is Phelan, and he doesn't want to interfere. Guards. Call the mayor of Korea immediately, as well as the police chief, the president of the public trial court, and others. Cooties ordered with a gloomy face. I will hold a public trial here today. Yes. Several royal guards bowed and agreed, and then walked out, but they came back in less than 2 minutes. Behind them, there were a few people. They were exactly the people Cooties wanted to find. These people are all local bosses. How could the big events happening in their own territory be hidden from their ears and eyes? Knowing that His Majesty the King was coming, and even the Supreme Speaker of the Free Federation Parliament came to them. These guys have been waiting outside for a long time. No matter whether they will come to them or not, it should be right to wait here. Moreover, these people were also uneasy while waiting. They didn't know why the Speaker and His Majesty came here this time. And they didn't dare to inquire about the things in the restaurant. They were anxious like ants on a hot pot. Now they finally heard that the king summoned them, and they followed the royal guards in without any delay. After meeting His Majesty the King and the Speaker, several people stood honestly in front of Cooties. They had seen the situation in the restaurant and were sweating all over. With their level, although they had never seen Wang Feng in person, they had seen Wang Feng's photos a lot. Now they saw Wang Feng was here, and the restaurant was in a mess, with obvious traces of many bullets. In addition to the dejected policeman kneeling there, they didn't know what had happened. Even if they didn't know the details, it was definitely Wang Feng who was here and was offended by their people. Even if they didn't know who Wang Feng was before, now seeing him standing with the speaker, even a blind person could see it. So they instinctively felt that something was wrong. They knew their own city very well, and they knew the morals of their subordinates even better. Especially seeing that the playboy Nidade was also among them. It's related to a woman, and it's Mr. Wang's woman. This time it's terrible. These people had this thought at the same time. Listen carefully, I'm going to broadcast it live here and hold a national public trial. You go and arrange it immediately. Cooties said to them. Also, you are not strict with your subordinates, and you will be punished this time. Such a dark thing happened in the area under your jurisdiction. Humph. I think you should go back to being ordinary people. If you don't have the ability to benefit the people, don't occupy this position. Well said. As soon as Cooties finished speaking, Wang Feng cheered loudly. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 794. Wang Feng agreed with Cooties' words 100%. Yes, if an official cannot do practical things for the people and only cares about making money for himself, what do the people need you as a dog official for? Cooties' words made Wang Feng appreciate it greatly. Cooties was praised by Wang Feng and understood Wang Feng's meaning more clearly. Gauss Hixing, who was sitting next to Wang Feng, had a twinkling look in his eyes and nodded slightly. Now Gauss Hixing understood what Wang Feng meant. After hearing the whole process, he certainly knew that today's incident was not Wang Feng's deliberate trouble. It was these people who had no eyes and were used to bullying others. They thought that they could do whatever they wanted with their power here. In fact, they were right. If ordinary people came today, they would succeed. Anyway, after being arrested, they would definitely not be able to get out. The outside world would naturally not know. Those bystanders probably saw this kind of thing too many times and would not spread it at all, causing trouble for themselves. Who knew that they would run into Wang Feng today, and this time they hit a wall. It seems that Wang Feng hates this kind of guy who bullies others by taking advantage of his power. Thinking of this, Gau's Hixing gave up an idea in his mind. Originally, because of the incident with Wang Feng and his team, he planned to directly send people to help Wang Feng clear the way. Anyway, wherever Wang Feng went, he would let these people greet the people there in advance, so as to avoid offending Wang Feng again. But now, Gau's Hixing does not plan to do so. In fact, Gau's Hixing is still a good ruler. He also wants to make people's lives more stable and the dark side of society less under his governance. It is impossible to have no dark side. The mother planet is so big that he can't manage it at all. And there are many times when Gau's Hixing is dealing with some things, he is also cautious and has to take into account the interests of many parties to maintain a delicate balance between the forces below. Although he seems to have the final say now, if he really takes ruthless action and cuts off the cake of a certain force, then not only this force, but other forces will also be in danger and unite to resist him. In that case, he will fall into a very passive situation. But now seeing Wang Feng's somewhat hateful character, Gau's Hixing thinks that maybe, there is no need to remind those people, just let Wang Feng go. Now Gau's Hixing hopes that those dark sides will be exposed to Wang Feng more. In this way, he will have no scruples when dealing with it. After all, the matter involves Wang Feng. Who dares to get angry with Wang Feng on the mother planet now? At that time, as long as he is under the banner of helping Wang Feng vent his anger, he doesn't believe that any force dares to jump out. Thinking of this, Gau's Hixing's eyes narrowed into slits with laughter. Old Gao! Did you find the money? Wang Feng turned around and saw Gau's Hixing thinking of something. He smiled happily and the wrinkles on his face were gathered into a chrysanthemum, so he asked curiously. Ah! Ah! Gau's Hixing woke up from his dream and said to Wang Feng. No. Nothing. I just suddenly remembered, my breakfast today was delicious, so I will have lunch soon. What a mess. Wang Feng frowned, but since the old man refused to say, Wang Feng naturally would not ask the bottom of the matter, so he continued to look back at how Cooties was going to deal with this incident. At this time, the wine and food that Cooties had asked the royal family member to arrange before were ready, and more than a dozen waiters lined up and walked towards them. When they saw the waiter put the wine and food on their table, everyone was stunned, and then realized that this must be Cooties' arrangement. Although it had just finished, Wang Feng and the others looked at the table full of dishes and suddenly felt their appetites again. Since His Majesty is so enthusiastic, let's not give him a chance. Let's eat. Wang Feng waved his hand, and then the four of them began to plunder the dishes on the table again under Gau's Hixing's stunned gaze. In less than 5 minutes, the food that came up was swept away by Wang Feng and the other four. Gau's Hixing looked at the empty plates, and then looked at the fried prawn that he had forked back at the beginning, and couldn't help but feel a little stupid. Old Gao! Don't force yourself if you can't eat. This is not good for your health. As Wang Feng's earnest persuasion, a hand swept past as fast as the wind, and the fried prawn on Gau's Hixing's fork disappeared. Watching Wang Feng chewing the fried prawns that were supposed to belong to him, Gau's Hixing smiled bitterly and said, Wang! You aren't that short of food, are you? I remember sending you a lot. According to your number, there is definitely no problem eating for a year. Why are you? After the chat just now, Gau's Hixing can now be relaxed in front of Wang Feng. However, although Wang Feng repeatedly said that Gau's Hixing could call him a lunatic, Gau's Hixing finally chose to call him Wang. Wang is also fine, at least it is much closer than Mr. Wang. Lao Gao. Do you think, our eating manners are a bit ugly? Wang Feng looked at Gau's Hixing and asked. Yeah. Gau's Hixing nodded directly, without hiding his thoughts. He now has some understanding of Wang Feng, knowing that he is not the kind of person who likes hypocrisy, and will not be angry because of his frankness. Huh. Wang Feng sighed, then looked back at Cooties and found that he was waiting for those people to set up the live broadcast equipment and prepare for the national public trial. It seems that their preparations will take some time, so Wang Feng turned around and looked at Gau's Hixing. Lao Gao. Are you interested in listening to my story? You say. Gau's Hixing's eyes lit up. He knew that he might know the true origins of Wang Feng and others. This at least shows that Wang Feng has let down his guard against him. We come from another planet. We call that planet Atlantis. It's quite far from here. Wang Feng spoke slowly, his eyes becoming blurred. We are the descendants of the human race that drove the Yanhuang away from the mother planet, but we didn't know anything before. Our place was similar to yours before, and the technology was far behind yours. And we have no history. We don't know our mother planet, we don't know the origin of the human race, we all think that we were born in Atlantis. Until one day, countless fireballs fell from the sky and destroyed our world. Wang Feng spoke slowly, and Lu Wanting and others seemed to return to the fearful and helpless environment at the beginning with Wang Feng's narration. Gau's Hixing's eyes widened and he listened to Wang Feng's narration with a shocked face. Destroying skyfire, zombies, mutant beasts, mutant insects. Hunger, fear, darkness, chaos. Gau's Hixing, who had never experienced these, couldn't help but feel a shudder. After telling his own experience, Wang Feng looked at Gau's Hixing calmly. You should know now why we eat like this. Pointing to the empty plate on the table, Wang Feng continued. We will not waste food. Even if we are full, we still have to eat all the food. If you have experienced hunger, and experienced a meal, you don't know when the next meal will come, you will also respect food. Maybe in your opinion, it's a bit ridiculous for me to say respect food, but you will never understand how crazy humans will become when they are extremely hungry. Do you know why we hope that everyone in the empire, including the elderly and children, is so strong? Because only strong strength can enable them to adapt to the environment, and only then can they survive and come here. Those who can't adapt to the environment have been eliminated early. Only tens of millions of people have come out of our entire planet. For a planet with billions of people, only 1 out of 100 people survives. So, my people, it can be said that they are truly 1 in 100. The dark times, the chaotic world, the cruel environment, did not stop us, did not crush us, and we still survived. Although, many of our brothers fell on this road, we will continue to live in their place. Although the mother planet is safe now, we have no intention of changing our habits. This is a kind of life attitude. At least, I dare say that if the mother planet becomes like Atlantis one day, we don't have to adapt anymore and we can live well. After listening to Wang Feng's words, and looking at the empty plates on the table, Gau's Hixing sighed. Alas! It seems that sometimes, disasters are not necessarily all bad things. But it is definitely not a good thing. Wang Feng said. It's just that disasters can indeed make people grow quickly, because the threat of death is always the greatest motivation for humans. Only under the threat of death can humans break through their limits again and again, which is an effect that cannot be achieved by any means. Gau's Hixing was stunned, and then fell into deep thought. At this time, Cooties was already ready. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 795. The reason why it took so long was that Cooties had someone to help the couple who had just told him what happened just now to provide commentary for the surveillance video in the restaurant. There were surveillance videos in the restaurant, but they could only record images, not sounds. This was not because of poor technology, but to protect the privacy of the guests who came to dine. After all, when people chat while eating, they may talk about things that they don't want others to know. Therefore, the surveillance cameras set up in public places can only record images, but not sounds. Otherwise, Cooties would not have to find someone to repeat the previous things, and just take the surveillance video and watch it again. Wouldn't it be enough? The national live broadcast was ready. After Cooties came over to ask Wang Feng for his opinion, he went back and started. In fact, Cooties asked very simply, that is, whether Wang Feng had any opinions on the treatment of those people. Wang Feng just replied lightly. They should get what they want to treat others. This sentence made Cooties feel at ease, so he faced the camera and officially started this public trial. The most horrified person here was Mrs. Charlie. She never thought that just because she was unhappy for a while, her sister would make such a big fuss about this matter. She secretly prayed that she could survive in her heart, while complaining that her luck was really bad. She actually met such a guy who pretended to be a pig and ate the tiger. She didn't expect that for someone as arrogant and vicious as her. She was lucky to be alive until now. Even if she didn't meet Wang Feng today, she would meet Wang Yu, Wang Lei, Wang Dian, and so on in the future. So, she was asking for death, and it would come to pass sooner or later. Facing the live camera, Cooties first introduced himself, and then recounted the incident of this live trial. Then, he started playing the surveillance video of the restaurant directly. Because several cameras were switched back and forth, coupled with the real-time explanation of the couple, after watching the surveillance video, everyone had understood the cause and effect of the matter. Suddenly, the comments below were filled with curses, all denouncing Mrs. Charlie, the restaurant manager, Nidade, and the police. But Carl, the little guy, unexpectedly gained a lot of fans, and there were quite a lot of people supporting him. In the surveillance video, Wang Feng and the other four were all censored, and Cooties did not dare to publicly release the faces of the four gods. And Gauss Hixing also secretly warned him. Because Gauss Hixing wanted to use Wang Feng and his friends' trip to cleanse the darkness on the mother planet. Although it is unlikely that this will cause too much change in the order of the mother planet, it can at least make some families restrain themselves. Finally, Cooties directly sentenced Mrs. Charlie to life imprisonment and went directly to prison without bail. Of course, this is only a public verdict, and when Mrs. Charlie enters the prison, she will find that she will be locked up with those male prisoners. The scene she described to Lu Wanting and Zhang Xia before will be realized in her. Mrs. Charlie's brother was also sentenced to death because of the unjust case disclosed by Nidade. Because he was a public official and broke the law, the sentence was naturally much heavier. Mrs. Charlie's family would naturally be implicated, because without the family as a backer, how could she, a woman, be so arrogant? Therefore, it can be imagined that after today, Mrs. Charlie's family should immediately fall into ruin and become the bumpkin that Mrs. Charlie despised before. Then, it was the restaurant manager who arbitrarily slandered others and was imprisoned for 10 years. Moreover, because he had promised before that the previous table of guests would be free of charge, the bill paid by Wang Feng before would be borne by him. As for Wang Feng's money, it was naturally returned on the spot. As for whether the restaurant manager could pay the money back, anyway, it was the money he owed to the royal family. It was estimated that it would be difficult for him to default on the debt. And Nidade, using his family status, openly threatened others, and also directed his men to try to rob the woman. He was extremely guilty and was immediately imprisoned. And because of his behavior, he was considered not to be a first-time offender, so a case would be immediately filed to investigate whether he had committed other illegal acts before. After the investigation, he would be sentenced together. And such a person could actually become the first heir of the Nita family, which shows that the Nita family also seems to be suspected of illegality. Cooties assigned the royal guards on the spot to investigate the Nita family. Any family member found to have committed illegal acts would be severely punished. If it were in the past, Cooties would really not dare to touch the Nita family, and even Gau's Hicksing would have to consider it. But now they offended Wang Feng, and Cooties certainly had no scruples. He didn't believe that anyone would dare to jump out and speak for the Nita family at this time. When Nidate heard the verdict, his face was ashen. He knew that this time, his family could not save him, and even whether his family could be saved was another matter. If he really wanted to investigate the things he had done before, it would definitely not be difficult. Just pulling out 2 of them would be enough to kill him. It can be imagined that the Nita family is going to fall into decline completely this time. As for the police, Ford and those he brought were all shot. Those policemen who followed Ford must have done this kind of thing frequently, and they would certainly not be unjust if they killed him. As for those who came later, although they shot Wang Feng, they did not hurt Wang Feng because Ford had distorted the facts before. After asking Wang Feng for his opinion, he was punished by being demoted and given a major demerit. As for Carl, because he was stubborn and unyielding, and also gained the appreciation of Wang Feng, he was directly promoted to restaurant manager, and was personally appointed by His Majesty the King. Therefore, even though he is young, no one dares to underestimate him. It can be said that he has a bright future in the future. After finally finishing all the matters, Cooties looked at Wang Feng and Gau's Hicksing and saw that neither of them had any objections, so he announced the end of the public trial. However, after it ended, the people of Phelan country suddenly became more enthusiastic, and Curtis actually received the highest support rate since he came to the throne. This unexpected gain was something that Cooties did not expect. He felt that it would be a good thing to do more of this kind of thing in the future. But when I look back and think about it, even if something like this happens again in the future, if I encounter it, I will be very cautious when dealing with it. It is impossible for me to be as happy as I am today. After all, when I was dealing with this matter, there were 2 great gods standing behind me. Who dares to step forward? Next time it's his turn, he won't be so proud. Thinking of this, Cooties looked at Wang Feng and the others, hoping that they could play in Phelan country for a few more days. In this case, this great god would be able to rely on him for a few more days. Seeing that the matter had been dealt with, and Wang Feng could basically accept the result, he stood up and looked at Gau's Hicksing. Lao Gao. I'm going back to rest, why don't you come and sit down too? Gau's Hicksing was about to refuse, but when he saw Wang Feng's eyes, he seemed to have other intentions, so he nodded and said, "Okay. Then bother Wang." Regarding the conversation between the 2 people, Cooties did not dare to interrupt at will, and just stood quietly aside. "Wang. You live in?" Gau's Hicksing looked at Wang Feng and asked. "Oh. I just felt a little tired after walking here, so I stayed in this hotel." Wang Feng answered casually. "Ah." Cooties was shocked. He didn't expect Wang Feng to be staying in their royal hotel. "Be sure to say hello to those brats later, and be sure to take good care of these 4 great gods. Don't hit the muzzle of the gun." Cooties thought to himself that he hoped that Wang Feng could cause more trouble in his country, but if people from the royal family were involved, he would be in trouble. Gau's Hicksing and Wang Feng came to the guest room area of the hotel together. When they saw that Wang Feng had booked 2 suites, Gau's Hicksing did not let Kudake help them change to a more luxurious guest room. He knew that Wang Feng was not short of money. If they wanted to live in a better place, they would have asked for it before. And after hearing about Wang Feng's experience, Gau's Hicksing knew that Wang Feng and the others could sleep comfortably, let alone the guest room, even on the street. In terms of survivability, I am afraid that the strongest people on the home planet are the people of the Hope Empire. Entering the guest room, Wang Feng and Gau's Hixing sat on the sofa in the living room. Wang Feng did not say too much and went straight to the topic. Just now, because there were other people down there, Wang Feng did not explain to Gau's Hixing what happened in the ancient secret realm. But because Wang Feng had promised to tell Gau's Hixing about the situation inside, Gau's Hixing happened to be here again, so he simply settled everything this time. Wang Feng explained the situation in the ancient secret realm. In fact, Wang Feng basically didn't know anything about the ancient secret realm. So I finished it quickly. Lao Gao. This is the situation. None of us have ever been to the ancient secret realm, and we can only enter but not exit. After Wang Feng finished speaking, he looked at Gau's Hixing and said. And I'm certain that it's definitely not a safe place inside, so, you can consider for yourself whether you want to follow me into the ancient secret realm. If you go in, I can only promise that I will protect you when I am able. If I can't take care of myself, then. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 796. Wang Feng looked at Gau's Hixing very seriously. Because Gau's Hixing was a smart man, Wang Feng didn't need to beat around the bush and told him the truth directly. As for whether he went in or not, it was up to him to choose. Anyway, Wang Feng had already said that he would protect him to the best of his ability. If it was beyond his ability, then he could only wish for the best. After Gau's Hixing finished listening, he was silent for a while, then looked up at Wang Feng. Wang. Thank you. I'll go back and think about it. Anyway, you're going to stay here for another year, right? I won't bother you anymore. Yet. Wang Feng nodded. No thanks. After Gau's Hixing left, Lu Wanting walked out of the bedroom and came to Wang Feng. Feng. Do you think he will go in with us? I don't know. Wang Feng shook his head. But I guess this guy won't go in. His strength is too low, and he probably knows this himself. This old fox is definitely not the kind of person who will do anything when his brain gets hot. That day, because they encountered many things, Wang Feng and the others did not go out again, but hid directly in the hotel until the next morning. After that, they continued their journey. They went shopping, ate snacks, watched movies, and went to the amusement park like lovers before the end of the world. They really seemed to have returned to their lives before the end of the world. Putting all the sufferings they had experienced and the powerful enemies they would face in the future behind, they stopped thinking about them, mixed in with a large group of ordinary people, enjoying ordinary life to their heart's content. Only those who have experienced the end of the world, only those who have experienced despair, can understand the true meaning of life, and can appreciate the preciousness of a peaceful life. Wang Feng and the other four, like two ordinary couples, traveled around the mother planet. They buried a motorhome, drove wherever they wanted, and stayed overnight wherever they saw beautiful scenery. Or fishing and picnic, or sleeping on the ground, enjoying this hard-earned time to their heart's content. Madman. Give me a bottle of water. On a tourist bus, Su Mo, who was sitting in the row in front of Wang Feng and his group, turned around and said. Because Wang Feng also had Xianyuan space, naturally all the things were placed with Wang Feng. Moreover, in order to conceal his tracks, Wang Feng also carried a backpack. Here. Wang Feng reached into his backpack, then took out a bottle of water from Xianyuan space and threw it to Su Mo. At this time, it had been more than a month since they set out, and they were now in a tour group. After the four of them had been traveling by car for a month, Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu felt that it was not lively enough for the four of them alone. It just so happened that someone posted a small advertisement for a tour group, saying that they would gather 50 people to form a group and travel together. And there was also a tour guide to lead the group, and all the food, clothing, housing, and transportation on the road were all covered by the travel agency. Lu Wanting casually asked about the time and found out that they were leaving the next day, so she discussed it with Zhang Xiu and then signed up directly. As for the opinions of the two men behind her, anyway, they would agree, so there was no need to be so troublesome and ask specifically, right? So, early the next morning, they parked the RV they had bought before in the hotel parking lot, and then set off with the tour group's bus. Because the tour group was going to come back, Wang Feng did not check out. Anyway, they would see what happened later. They didn't need this little money now. The tour group was a 4-day tour, and Wang Feng and his friends paid for 5 days' room. If they hadn't come back in 5 days, it meant that the zombies had changed their minds and left the scenic spot directly. At that time, the hotel would naturally take back the room. Anyway, all their things were in Wang Feng's Xianyuan space. However, the second day after the tour group set off, Wang Feng and Su Mo regretted it. Is this a tour group? It's obviously a shopping group. After arriving at a scenic spot, before they had seen it for a while, the tour guide would pull all the tourists to a store and introduce the items inside. And they also claimed that this place was a related unit to them, and everyone would buy it very cheaply here. However, although Wang Feng and his friends were not very interested in this, Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu were quite interested. Seeing this situation, Wang Feng and Su Mo naturally had to smile bitterly. Anyway, it's just for fun, as long as they are happy, and they are not short of money now, so just buy it. So, in 4 days, they did visit a lot of attractions, but the actual time spent on sightseeing was less than 1/5, and the rest of the time was wasted on the road and shopping. Finally, they came to the last attraction, and after a quick tour, they came to a store. However, when they saw the goods in the store, Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu, two shopping enthusiasts, were disappointed. Because this store only sells 2 kinds of items, one is medicine and the other is stone carvings. Dear friends, as you know, the Duotian mountain where we are now is the place where the Mulia tribe with a long history has lived for generations. The witch doctor of the Mulia tribe is famous far and wide, and even has the magical ability to prolong people's lives. According to Mulia's historical records, their ancient witch doctors used an herb called Tianlezi when reviving people's lives. And on this day of dew branches, on our home planet, only the highest peak of Duotian mountain, Ghost Crying Peak, has a small amount of growth. We have watched Devil May Cry Peak from a distance before, and I have also introduced it to you. The reason why Devil May Cry Peak is called Devil May Cry Peak is because it is too high, even ghosts can't climb it, and it can make ghosts cry. The other reason is that there is a weird sound coming from the top of Devil May Cry Peak all year round, like a ghost crying and howling. It is very scary, so it was named Devil May Cry Peak. It is precisely because of this that only a small amount of skydew branches grow near the top of Devil May Cry Peak, which makes them even more precious, because if you want to pick the skydew branches, you must do so at dawn. Okay. The dew branches must be picked when the sun has not risen and is still covered with dew, in order to retain its life-sustaining effect. Therefore, the life-sustaining pills of the Mulia tribe have always been priceless. Think about it, everyone, even if you have a fortune but no life, doesn't all the money still belong to others? Only when you are alive can you enjoy everything in the world. Once you die, everything has nothing to do with you. The pretty female tour guide spared no effort in promoting the so-called life-sustaining pill. Wang Feng was originally a little curious by her introduction. But after looking at the so-called life-extending pills with exquisite packaging, Wang Feng suddenly rolled his eyes. In these boxes, he didn't feel any life fluctuations at all. It can be seen that these so-called life-sustaining pills are nothing but garbage. Even if it is some dry herbs, such as century-old ginseng, Wang Feng can feel an energy fluctuation in it. The greater the energy fluctuations, the higher the effectiveness of this herb. And if this life-extending pill really has the kind of life-extending effect the female tour guide said, Wang Feng must be able to feel great fluctuations in life energy in it. However, even though he knew that the female tour guide was a liar and that the life-extending pill was fake, Wang Feng had no intention of exposing them. Anyway, it's just a matter of cheating for some money. You and I agree. Wang Feng doesn't bother to deal with this kind of thing. Their main task now is to eat, drink and have fun, other things have nothing to do with them. Anyway, I hope that the people of the empire will have strong forces, so that even if they encounter them, they will not suffer. Someone else, Wang Feng is not a savior. Besides, this kind of thing will probably happen wherever there are people, and he can't control it. As early as the time of Atlantis, Wang Feng had heard about this kind of tour group on the news. Unexpectedly, there are actually liars who are almost the same as those guys on the home planet. This is really liars without borders, no. It's the starless realm. After the female tour guide introduced the magical effect of the life-extending pill, she looked at the fiery expressions in everyone's eyes, and a look of pride flashed in her eyes. Then she pointed to the boxes of life-extending pills placed on the counter and said, "Everyone, I am very grateful to you for choosing our travel agency. To be honest, my name is Josie Pianza, and I am also a member of the Mulia tribe. In order to thank everyone, I specially applied to the old patriarch to let him part with these valuable and unmarketable life-extending pills. Everyone needs to know that in order to help you fight for these life-extending pills, I knelt in front of the old patriarch's door for 3 days and 3 nights. Besides, the old patriarch only promised me this time. Even if you want it next time, I have no choice. Now, I announce that all members of our tour group can purchase the life-extending pill. If they are not from our group, they are not eligible to purchase it. And because the quantity of life-extending pill is limited, in order to allow everyone to buy it, each person is limited to 2 boxes. You can't buy more. Okay. You can snap up your purchases now. If the quantity is limited, it will be gone once it is sold out. If you don't get it, don't blame me." After the female tour guide finished speaking, she waved her hand to signal that the rush to start. Whoops! Hearing that the quantity was limited and there was a purchase limit, except for Wang Feng and the 4 of them, the other 46 people all crowded in, preparing to snap up the magical life-sustaining pill. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 797. Wang Feng stared blankly at those guys who were scrambling for the first place, and his brain was a little stuck. What's the situation with these people? The female tour guide has clearly told them that she is a liar, Josie Pianza. Besides, if it is really so precious, can each person limit the purchase to 2 boxes? 1 pill is probably enough. As for what she said, people from other groups are not eligible to buy it. In this store, there are only people from their tour group. How can there be people from other groups? Even Zhang Xiu, the rough-minded girl, was shaking her head and muttering softly. Humph! Are they all pigs? So stupid, they can't even see this. However, since Wang Feng didn't speak, they all kept silent and just stood there waiting. Wang Feng had already agreed with Lu Wanting that after joining this tour group, they would still take the same way as before, and travel by car. Because although they were with the group, Lu Wanting and the others didn't think it was very lively. Maybe it was because of the time. It was not a major festival, so the young people were busy. Therefore, the tour group they followed was mostly composed of elderly people. Except for Wang Feng and the other 4 and the female tour guide, the youngest was already over 50 years old. These uncles and aunts did not pay any attention to the 4 young people in their early 20s, so Lu Wanting and the others also found it quite boring. It was just that they had already got on the bus, so they just followed. Wang Feng and the other four were quietly watching these uncles and aunts rushing to buy the life-extending pills. The female tour guide naturally saw it and came over. "Handsome guy and beautiful girl, what's wrong? Not interested in our life-extending pills?" Josie Pianzi asked with a smile. "I have a question." Wang Feng did not answer Josie Pianzi's words, but looked at her curiously and asked, "Is your name really Josie Pianzi? Or did you name it according to your profession?" Hearing Wang Feng's words, Josie Pianzi was stunned, then frowned, as if she was about to get angry, but then she suppressed it, showing her professional face and said, "Of course it's true. You don't have to care about my name, hurry up and buy it, otherwise it will be gone in a while, and you may only have this one chance to buy the life-extending pill in your life. Forget it." Not getting the answer she wanted, Wang Feng, who was in charge of the case, shook his head and said, "Compared to them, I think we don't need to prolong our lives at our age, so such a good thing should be left to those who need it more. It doesn't matter. There are a lot anyway, you don't have to be so humble. Although you can't use it now, there will always be a day when you can use it in the future." Josie Pianzi continued to persuade. "Moreover, the life-prolonging pill has no shelf life, and the efficacy will never be lost. Moreover, it is also good for you to buy it back and honor your parents. No, we are really not interested. Thank you." Wang Feng still shook his head and refused. "Then, you can take a look at the stone carvings over there, which is also a feature of our Mulia tribe. If you come here and don't bring back a few stone carvings, it is equivalent to not having been to Duoshan Mountain." Josie Pianzi's eyes turned, and he began to recommend those stone carvings to them again. Wang Feng looked over and found that those stone carvings were crude, just carved a few times at random, and placed there seemingly. Because of his heavenly eyes, Wang Feng could see everything clearly even from a distance. The most annoying thing was that the prices of the stone sculptures were quite expensive. The smallest palm-sized stone sculptures cost tens of thousands of yuan to buy. "It's too heavy, we don't want it." Wang Feng still shook his head. "Friends, you'd better be sensible. We have our own rules here in Duoshan Mountain." Seeing that Wang Feng was still refusing, Josie Pianzi finally turned cold and said in a gloomy voice. Along the way, Lu Wanting and Zhang Xia bought a lot of good things. Josie Pianzi had been eyeing them for a long time. How could such a stupid and rich guy be let go easily? This was the last stop. Josie Pianzi originally planned to rip them off here. Who knew that because the things in the shops they passed by before were also ridiculously expensive, Zhang Xiu and Lu Wanting had no concept of the currency here. And they also knew that Wang Feng didn't lack this, so they didn't show any courtesy. In addition, there were indeed some things in those shops that interested them, so they bought some. And here, the broken stone certainly couldn't attract them, let alone the life-extending pill. Even without Wang Feng's words, they could feel that although the box was beautiful, the things inside were useless. So, of course, they wouldn't buy anything here. Oh! Wang Feng couldn't help laughing when he heard Josie Pianzi's words. What rules? Humph! Anyone who comes to Duoshan Mountain, you have entered the territory of my Mulia tribe and received the blessing of the Duoshan Mountain God. In this case, you must contribute to our Duoshan Mountain. You can't come here for nothing. Do you think that the blessing of the mountain god of Duoshan Mountain can be obtained casually? The blessing of the mountain god. Wang Feng turned his head to look at the Ghost Cry Peak in the distance, and then nodded. Well. So, the blessing of the mountain god is indeed not for nothing, and we must give the mountain god some rewards. Humph! Josie Pianzi snorted and said. You should be sensible. There are 4 of you in total. If you calculate it based on 25,000 per person, just give 100,000. Take it. Looking at Josie Pianzi's hand stretched out in front of him, Wang Feng looked at those who were still rushing to buy the life-extending pill. The life-extending pill is only 5,000 per box. 2 boxes per person is 10,000. How come it has become 25,000 when it comes to them? Seeing Wang Feng's actions, Josie Pianza couldn't help but sneer, thinking in his heart. Who made you fat sheep? If you don't slaughter them hard, how can you be worthy of yourself? Alas! The blessing of the mountain god. 25,000 per person is not expensive. Wang Feng sighed softly. Hearing Wang Feng's words, Josie Pianza showed a look of contempt on his face. Humph! What are you pretending for? Didn't you become cowardly when you saw that I was fierce? It looks like a decent person, but it turns out to be a soft egg. It seems that after getting the money, I still can't let him go so easily. I must leave all the money on them here. However, Josie Pianza waited for a long time, but did not see Wang Feng's next move, and couldn't help urging. Take the money. What are you waiting for? Take it now. Wang Feng asked with a puzzled look. Don't you have to wait for him to come before giving it? Wait for him? Who is he? Josie Pianza was also confused. The mountain god of Duotian Mountain. Wang Feng said with a serious face. We have received the blessing of the mountain god of Duotian Mountain. If we want to thank him, we should thank him. Therefore, I should give the money to him in person. Puff. Ha ha. Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu couldn't help laughing, and even Su Mo laughed out loud. Just now they were also wondering what Wang Feng was doing. Now they know that Wang Feng is playing tricks on Josie Pianza. You bastard dare to play tricks on me. At this time, Josie Pianza naturally understood it and couldn't help staring at Wang Feng. You just saw it? You are so slow to react. Wang Feng's face also turned cold. Originally, he didn't intend to care about this matter, but now Josie Pianza is unwilling to let them go and treat them as fat sheep. Then Wang Feng will naturally not be polite. I'll ask you one last question, will you pay or not? Josie Pianza looked at Wang Feng, with fierceness in her eyes. I'll pay when I see the mountain god. Okay. Josie Pianza nodded, and suddenly sneered. Then, just wait, I bet you will definitely see the mountain god, but I hope you won't regret it when the time comes. Okay. Wang Feng nodded. Maybe I will regret it, but, maybe it won't be us. Very good. Then, wait and see. After Josie Pianza finished speaking, she looked at Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu again, and suddenly a mocking look appeared on her face, then she turned around and left, no longer paying attention to Wang Feng and the others. Wang Feng was a little surprised to see Josie Pianza leave. This is already their territory, and Wang Feng thought that a group of big men would appear soon and surround them. I didn't expect Josie Pianza to leave like this, isn't it here? Thinking of this, Wang Feng looked at Ghost Cry Peak again and shook his head helplessly. It would be great if it was here. Wang Feng was originally planning to solve the problem here and then go to Ghost Cry Peak to have a look. After listening to the introduction of Ghost Cry Peak just now, Wang Feng became interested in Ghost Cry Peak. But now it seems that he can't go for the time being. After waiting for a long time until those people rushed to buy the life-extending pill, Josie Pianza pulled those people to the stone sculpture to introduce it. The fierceness when she was talking to Wang Feng just now was still gone, and she became the girl who looked very sweet again. I don't know how she introduced it, but those people actually paid money to buy those stone sculptures, and it seems that everyone has one. This situation surprised Wang Feng, and he sighed that Josie Pianza really lived up to her name. The shopping was finally over. After all these people got on the bus, Josie Pianza turned around and looked at Wang Feng and the others, and then pointed to the door and said, 4. Get on the bus. The mountain god invites. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 798. After hearing Josie Pianza's words, Wang Feng and the four of them looked at each other, and then got on the bus together. Their calm expressions made Josie Pianza frown. Josie Pianza, who had been a tour guide for several years, also had a certain degree of discernment. But thinking that this was their territory after all, even if these four people had some background, it would be useless here, so they quickly ignored them. After getting on the bus, the driver started the bus and then walked along the winding mountain road, preparing to start the return journey. However, after the bus drove for more than half an hour, it stopped on the mountain road. Wang Feng looked forward and saw what seemed like a dozen people standing on the roadside. "Four of you. Don't you want to see the mountain god? You can get off the car now." Josie Pianza came to Wang Feng and the others and said with a sneer. "You wouldn't tell me that those people are mountain gods, right?" Wang Feng said indifferently. "Of course they are not. They are here to take you to see the mountain god. Stop talking nonsense. Get out of the car quickly." Josie Pianza said coldly, then looked at the other tourists. "Don't worry, everyone. These four people did not respect the rules of our Mulia tribe and insulted the mountain god. According to our Mulia tribe, they need to be punished. And you are all good tourists and friends of our Mulia tribe, so don't worry, as long as you hold the stone sculptures you bought at the last scenic spot in your hands, you won't have any trouble." After hearing Josie Pianza's words, the other tourists, the Federation, took out the funds and purchased stone sculptures from their backpacks. Afterwards, these people looked at Wang Feng with sympathetic eyes, and there were actually many people inside, with expressions of gloating about his misfortune, which made Wang Feng shake his head and sigh secretly. At this time, the door of the bus opened, and two sturdy men boarded the bus. They walked over and scanned the passengers on the bus. The strong man in the lead had a shiny bald head, and a ferocious scorpion tattoo on his head, which also covered the upper part of the right half of his face. The scorpion's tail, curved into a circle, wraps around his tail. It makes this strong man look very vicious. When they found that all the people were holding stone sculptures in their hands, their faces looked better. "Josie Pianza. Are those four people you mentioned?" At the same time, he turned to look at Wang Feng and Su Mo, and asked contemptuously. Josie Pianza did not show any dissatisfaction, but said with a smile. "Brother Tiger. It's them. You guys. Don't you want to meet the mountain god and thank him personally? Get out of the car." Brother Tiger narrowed his eyes, looked at Wang Feng and said. Wang Feng looked at the other people in the car and found that all of them turned their heads and pretended to look at the scenery outside. No one was willing to stand up and speak. "Oh. Damn it. No matter what, everyone is so virtuous." Seeing this scene, Wang Feng shook his head and sighed, then turned around and said to Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu, who were still sitting in the back row. "Let's go. Go down and see what their mountain god is." Such disrespectful words to the mountain god made Brother Tiger's eyebrows suddenly stand up, as if he was about to get angry. But at this moment, he suddenly saw Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu standing up, so his anger instantly turned into shock, and then turned into ecstasy. "Ha ha ha ha! There are two such wet little girls. Josie Pianza, you did a good job this time. When you come back from your next vacation, Brother Hu, I will reward you for being so naughty." Brother Hu laughed wildly, then reached out and pinched Josie Pianza's face, and then got off the bus first. The other strong man who came up with him was at the rear of the carriage. After seeing Wang Feng and the others walking down the bus, he followed them and got off the bus together. After they all got off the bus, Brother Hu and others did not take action immediately. Instead, they stepped aside to the side of the road and waited for the bus to leave. Wang Feng and the others looked at their surroundings and found that the terrain here seemed to be very dangerous. On both sides of the kilometer, one side is a steep mountain wall, and the other side is a bottomless cliff. It seems that this is a good place to kill people and silence them. When the bus disappeared from their sight, Brother Hu turned his head and looked at Wang Feng and Su Mo first. Wang Feng and Su Mo both have a somewhat thin body shape, especially since they are wearing relatively loose clothes, so they look very inconspicuous. Brothers. These four people despised the mountain god. According to the old rules, the men were thrown under the cliff and the women were brought back to the village. Tonight, we have more fun. Brother Hu said with a cruel smile. These two little girls are really smart. After I play, you all have a share, but, don't play to death. If we can let them give birth to a few girls as beautiful as them, we will be lucky. Ha 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 ha. Hearing Brother Hu's words, everyone else laughed wildly. This is their territory, of course they have no scruples, and Wang Feng and the others should also be regarded as such. So now they are already imagining the beautiful scenery of having Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu under their bodies at night. Boy, take out all the money you have, and I can let you die a happy death. Then it will pass through your body and come out from your mouth. A boy behind Brother Hu, carrying a long wooden stick about the thickness of an arm, walked up to Wang Feng and Su Mo and said, "Believe it or not, you will mourn for 3 days before you die. You lost a lot of people down here." Wang Feng didn't pay, but looked at the cliff next to him and asked with a frown. The boy was stunned for a moment, then said with a ferocious smile, "Why do you talk so much nonsense? If you know how to do it, just go down. You won't be able to count by then. Don't humming test my patience, pay now." As he said that, the boy directly waved the wooden stick in his hand and hit Wang Feng on the head with a roar. Looking at the speed and power of this wooden stick, according to ordinary people on the home planet, if they were hit like this, they would probably become idiots even if they didn't die. But of course Wang Feng would not be hit by him. Before the stick hit him, Wang Feng dodged and rushed towards the cliff. Then without any hesitation, he jumped Xiaoqiu. Ah! The strong men of the Mulia tribe did not expect such a situation to occur, and they were all stunned. After a while, Brother Hu came to his senses and spat. "Bah! Damn, I didn't expect this kid to be so tough. He would rather commit suicide by jumping off a cliff than give us the money. Fortunately, he has 2 ladies, otherwise our trip today would have been in vain." Brother Hu then looked at Su Mo. "Boy! Why don't you jump down too? Look at the words. For the sake of bringing 2 beautiful girls to our Mulia village, I will be merciful today and let you die a little more happily." Su Mo looked at the cliff and shook his head. "I won't jump. He can just go down and take a look for himself, I don't have that ability." Wang Feng jumped off the cliff. Su Mo and the others were naturally not worried. They all knew that Wang Feng could fly in the air. And they even knew that Wang Feng jumped down because he wanted to see if there were any bones underneath. After all, what Brother Hu and the others just said were old rules. Judging from these 3 words, they probably threw a lot of people down. The people in Wang Feng's car were all elderly people, so their seemingly clumsy scam actually made no one else suspicious except Wang Feng and the others. Especially the life-extending pill. It is estimated that the Mulia tribe does have the legend of life-extending pill, so those old people believed Josie Pianza's words. It is said that people become more afraid of death as they get older, because they can feel the approach of death every day. Therefore, people of their age have basically lost the ability to judge after hearing about the magic of life-extending pills. Even if something feels wrong, he will hypnotize himself to make himself believe that if he takes the life-extending pill, he will live for a few more years. Even if this is just a good wish, they are not willing to lose it. But if it were young people, I'm afraid their scam wouldn't be so effective. Then there would naturally be people like Wang Feng and others who wouldn't spend money in vain. But they may not have the strength of Wang Feng and others, so their ending is obvious. Because of this, Wang Feng took the initiative to jump off the cliff and planned to go down to find out. Hearing that Su Mo couldn't speak any more, Brother Hu said with a cruel smile. Humph. If you can't go down, it's not up to you to decide now. Don't you want to see the mountain god? He is waiting for you down there right now. You'd better go down here for me. After speaking, Brother Hu shook his head at the man holding the wooden stick. Buzz. The boy understood, swung the wooden stick directly, and hit Su Mo with the sound of wind. Crack. Amidst the surprised looks in the boy's and Brother Hu's eyes, Su Mo lightly grabbed the wooden stick in his hand. It's better not to take action, because your outcome will be decided by the guy who jumped down just now when he comes up. Come up, come up. Brother Hu and the others couldn't help but subconsciously look at the cliff on one side, and the people who jumped down there. Can you still come up? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 799. Brother Hu walked to the edge of the cliff without believing in evil, and looked down. The dark cliff could not be seen to the end at a glance, and Wang Feng had long disappeared. Damn it! I think you are scared to death. You are talking nonsense. Brothers. Come on. Brother Hu looked back at Su Mo and said with a ferocious expression. He would not believe it even to death that someone who fell into this cliff could come back up again. Ever since their Duotian mountain was opened for tourism, they lost countless people who refused to spend their money on this cliff. After being thrown down, no matter whether it is a living person or a corpse, it is impossible to come up again. This mountain has strong magnetism and planes cannot enter at all, so no one of them has ever dared to go down below the cliff. According to their ancestors, someone had hung down a rope before and wanted to know what was under this cliff. But all the more than 2,000 meters of rope had been lowered, and it had not reached the bottom. From then on, no one dared to say that they wanted to go down to see what happened. Now he saw Wang Feng jump down with his own eyes, and when he looked over, he also paid attention to the mountain wall. What is certain is that Wang Feng did not pretend to jump, but clung to the mountain wall, trying to deceive him. Therefore, Brother Hu was sure that the guy who jumped just now had no chance of surviving. As for Su Mo and the others, although they still looked calm, Brother Hu estimated that they were frightened by the appearance of himself and others, as well as Wang Feng's action of jumping off the cliff just now, so they were confused and began to say what nonsense. Following Brother Hu's order, other people began to surround Su Mo. Because Su Mo showed his hand just now and easily caught the wooden stick that the boy threw at him. So they all seemed very cautious. Naturally, they knew very well about that boy. Although he was not the strongest among them, it would not be a day or two for him to do this kind of thing with them. These guys might not be able to catch his stick, at least not as calmly as Su Mo. Seeing these guys taking out their weapons one after another and surrounding him, Su Mo shook his head. Alas! No one believes the truth. What's the reason? Snort. Zhang Xiu snorted coldly, stood up, and said. There's no reason, it's just that you're too ugly. That's why they don't believe you. Get out of the way. Let me do it. Su Mo looked at Zhang Xiu's shining eyes and knew that the girl's hands were itching again, so he shook his head helplessly and stepped back, muttering. Call me ugly, you are seriously questioning your own vision. Fortunately, Zhang Xiu was too preoccupied to prepare for a fight and didn't pay attention to Su Mo's muttering. Otherwise, Zhang Xiu might not have left Mo behind to find Wang Feng. Brother Hu and the others saw that it was Zhang Xiu who stood up, and their previous doubts were instantly wiped away. Ha 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 ha. Girl. Brother Hu smiled arrogantly. You want to plead for your boyfriend? Do you think you can stand so many of us? You'd better call your female companion together. Idiot. Go to hell. Zhang Xiu was furious and was about to step forward, but suddenly stopped and stared blankly behind Brother Hu. Brother Hu didn't notice Zhang Xiu's eyes at this time, and calmly ordered his subordinates. "Hurry up and strip this little girl naked for me. I can't stand it anymore. Damn it, let's get angry right here." After Brother Hu finished speaking, he found that all his men were standing there blankly, looking behind him with fear on their faces. You, what are you looking at?" Seeing the looks in those people's eyes, Brother Hu suddenly felt that his spine was numb, and he didn't even have the courage to look back. Fly, plane." One of Brother Tiger's subordinates stammered and pointed behind Brother Tiger. "Airplane." Brother Hu couldn't help but be stunned, and then became furious. Your plane, are you so stupid? Where did this plane come from?" Originally, he thought some monster appeared behind him, but to his surprise, this kid actually said it was a plane. Who doesn't know that there is a strong magnetic field underground in Doomsday Mountain? Which plane dares to come here? It seems that these guys are really confused. You must teach them a lesson when you go back. Brother Hu turned his head away while thinking in his heart. Me. It didn't matter when he turned around, Brother Hu suddenly saw a fighter plane hovering behind him. The person in the cab was none other than Wang Feng. Ah! Brother Hu was suddenly frightened, and quickly pulled out a pistol from his trouser pocket, and then repeatedly pulled the trigger on Wang Feng's small fighter plane. However, his small pistol had no effect on Wang Feng's fighter plane. Although Wang Feng's fighter plane looks about the same size as the small passenger plane on the home planet, it is just more powerful in appearance. But no matter what, it is still a space fighter, and its purpose is to fight in space. How could such a conventional small weapon cause harm to it? Bullets kept hitting the glass and fuselage of the small fighter plane, but not even a white spot was left. Click. Click. The bullets were quickly exhausted, and Brother Tiger sat down on the ground out of fear. The hatch of the small fighter plane opened silently, and Wang Feng jumped out of the small fighter plane and landed lightly on the ground. He didn't want to reveal his ability to fly in front of these people yet, so he took out a small fighter plane hidden in Xianyuan space. Before setting off, Wang Feng placed two small fighters in the Xianyuan space. Anyway, the current Xianyuan space is large enough. Because Wang Feng didn't know when Doomsday and the others would come to the home planet and bring small fighters with them. Once he got the news of Doomsday's arrival, he could rely on the small fighters to rush back as soon as possible. As for the magnetism of Doomsday Mountain, it has no impact on the space fighter at all. The expression on Wang Feng's face now is quite terrifying, because the scene he saw below just now made him extremely angry. After Wang Feng jumped off the cliff just now, he fell nearly 5,000 meters before finally reaching the ground. What appeared in front of him was a large valley paved with bones. Wang Feng casually checked and found that some of these white bones were weathered and turned into bone powder with a light touch. However, there is no wind at the bottom of the valley, so many of these bones remain intact. To say it is complete only means that it is partially complete, such as the skull and arm bones. But it is impossible to find a truly complete skeleton in the valley. It would be impossible for any human body to remain intact after falling from such a great height. Wang Feng also saw some corpses, which should be the corpses of people who had been dumped recently. These corpses were also smashed into a mess, and they were all bloody. Even Wang Feng, who has experienced the apocalypse, has never seen such a hell-like scene on Earth before him. Zombies can eat people, but they won't eat them into such a terrifying form. Wang Feng looked at a corpse about 5 meters away from him, clenched his fists, and then looked up. That body must have been dumped in the past few days. He should be a young man in his 20s with short blonde hair. Although his face looks a bit ferocious now, he should have been a handsome guy when he was alive. It's just that the handsome guy's landing posture was a bit miserable. He should have landed with his head and feet upright. Therefore, His whole body was piled together, as if it were a pool. As for his head, due to the buffering of his own body, it was not damaged at all, and his facial features were still clear. However, his still wide-open eyes, filled with fear, uneasiness, and endless resentment, were glaring at Wang Feng, seeming to be telling him his misfortune. After seeing the situation at the bottom of the valley, Wang Feng didn't want to wait anymore. He directly took out a small fighter plane from the Xianyuan space, and then rushed upward. Because the small fighter plane climbed rapidly, it brought up a strong air current, which immediately blew away all the bones below, turning them into dust and flying all over the sky. When they fell again, they lightly covered the white bones that had not yet decayed. From a distance, they looked as magnificent as the auspicious snow in winter. Just looking outside, no one would imagine that what is covered under this beautiful snow scene is such a cruel hell on earth. As Wang Feng ascended at high speed, he sent the scene he had just recorded with the recorder on the small fighter plane directly to Gao's Hixing. Originally, he didn't plan to alarm Gao's Hixing. Since that brother tiger was planning to drop them all, then he just planned to drop them all. But after seeing the following scene, Wang Feng felt that with so many corpses, more than 100,000 people died here. This was definitely not something that Brother Hu and the dozen or so people could do. The biggest root cause is probably the village of the Mulia tribe. Even though Wang Feng himself could destroy this copycat, no matter how powerful their copycat was, it could not stop him. But after all, this is not Atlantis, but the Mother Star. Besides, after Wang Feng leaves, I hope the empire will continue to survive on the Mother Star. Therefore, Wang Feng does not want to appear too arrogant and domineering now, while making too many enemies and leaving hidden dangers to the Hope Empire. Although this generation of Hope Empire should not suffer a loss even without Wang Feng and the others, but who knows what will happen to their next generation. Me. I have met your mountain god. He entrusted me to help him with something. Looking at Brother Tiger, Wang Feng said word by word. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 800. Just now when he was on the small fighter plane, Wang Feng almost couldn't help but wanted to use the fighter plane to kill these beasts in human skin. You can cheat money, anyway, as long as there are people, the profession of cheater will never disappear. But killing those who are not cheated, integration touches Wang Feng's bottom line. During the time of traveling outside, Wang Feng also saw countless darkness in human society, but Wang Feng didn't care about all of them. He pretended to ignore everything that didn't provoke him. If he really cared about everything, then they wouldn't have to go to the original star, they would have endless things to do on the Mother Star. But this time, the Mulia tribe's affairs not only provoked Wang Feng, but also seriously touched his bottom line, so Wang Feng would never let them go. Not only the people in front of him, but also their mountain village, Wang Feng would go there in person to see, and he was ready to kill. As for why he didn't use the weapons on the small fighter plane to kill these people directly, it was because Wang Feng felt that it would be too easy for them. Looking at Brother Hu and the others, Wang Feng already had a way to deal with them. Wang Feng had seen the ravine just now. It was like a deep well with no way out. In this case, perhaps sending them all down and letting them stay there to accompany the innocent souls who died in their hands would be their best ending. However, Wang Feng didn't plan to do it yet. He had already sent the information to Gao's Hixing. Presumably, Gao's Hixing would come in person for such a big thing, right? However, Wang Feng overlooked one point, that is, his small fighter plane was not affected by the image here, but it was not the case on the mother planet. Because of the magnetic force, the navigation system was completely useless here, and the planes that had already gotten rid of manual driving could not enter here at all. And if it was manual driving, I'm afraid no pilot would dare to stand up and drive the plane to bring Gao's Hixing here. If there was an accident, no one could afford to let the Supreme Speaker have an accident on his own plane. This is the degradation that technology has brought to human beings. Over-reliance on technology will make people become more and more lazy. In the past, when there were no buses, almost everyone could walk more than 10 or dozens of kilometers. Now, if you can walk 1 or 2 kilometers every day, you have to post a circle of friends with great pride, as if you have just experienced the long march. This is also the main reason why humans on the mother planet are getting weaker and weaker. Therefore, if Gauss Hixing wants to get here, it will definitely not be fast. He can only take a plane to the outskirts of Duoshan Mountain first, and then take ground tools to come to Wangfeng. Fortunately, the communicator used by Wangfeng is not affected by images here, so Gauss Hixing is not afraid that he can't find Wangfeng. Gauss Hixing is now holding a communicator given to him by Wangfeng. The skill video call can also show Wangfeng's location. Of course, this location must be agreed by Wangfeng before Gauss Hixing can see it. If Wangfeng refuses, Gauss Hixing will not know where Wangfeng is. Wangfeng will not run to let Gauss Hixing know his whereabouts. Wangfeng thought Gauss Hixing would come soon, so he didn't act immediately. But after seeing Wangfeng jump out of the fighter plane, Brother Hu was sitting on the ground, got up again and then retreated to his side. Madman! What is that thing below? Su Emo looked at Wangfeng's face and couldn't help but feel a little curious. It was hard for him to imagine what kind of scene below could make Wangfeng's face so scary. Pa! Wangfeng didn't answer, but threw a tablet to Su Emo. After catching the tablet, Su Emo clicked on it a few times and called up the latest video. Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu, at this time, all curiously put their little heads up and stared at the tablet screen. Hiss! When they saw the image displayed in the tablet, the three of them took a breath at the same time. They naturally thought that these piles of bones were the travelers thrown down by the beasts of the Mulia tribe, such as Hu Zi. Today, if they were not strong enough, then Wangfeng and Su Emo would also become one of these bones. And the fate of Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu is definitely more miserable than them. Humph! Beasts! Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu, without waiting to finish watching the video, both flew out and rushed towards Brother Hu and the others. Brother Hu was thinking in his mind at this time, because Wangfeng had already come down from the fighter plane, so there was no danger. Even if he was powerful, could he beat so many of them alone? In this world, although there are some powerful soldiers who can beat more than a dozen people alone, they are fighting ordinary people. And the tribesmen like them, the Mulia tribe, all rely on the mountains for their livelihood. Although they also grow some crops, it is not their main business. Their main business is what they are doing now, and then hunting in the mountains. Therefore, it can be said that the Mulia tribe is born hunters, because their children do not go to school, but run around the mountains at the age of 6 or 7. When you are older, you can stay in the mountains for several days and nights. So if people like them stand up, one person can easily knock down 4 or 5 ordinary city dwellers. Now even if Wangfeng and Su Emo can fight, Brother Hu also feels that his side has the advantage, and this is their territory. Once the fight starts, they can directly send a signal, and the people in the mountain village will come to reinforce immediately after receiving the signal. When did the Mulia people crawl over outsiders in their own territory? Moreover, the Mulia people have a high self-esteem. They think that their race is the oldest race, and their ancestors are the royal family among humans. The ancestor they worship is a one-eyed cyclops, who also serves as their mountain god. And the valley under the cliff here is where they used to worship their ancestors. The corpses below are actually not all travelers who were thrown down because they refused to be cheated by them, but also living people who were thrown down when they were worshipping their ancestors. Of course, these people are not their people, but outsiders they caught. For example, Zhang Xiu and Lu Wanting, if they were defeated by Brother Hu and his men, then Wangfeng and Su Emo would have been thrown off the cliff long ago. But Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu will not die for the time being, but will be taken back to the village by them as a tool for sexual gratification. Once Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu are pregnant, they naturally cannot tell who the father of the child is, especially the people of the Mulia tribe will not care about this. Because the Mulia tribe has a tradition, that is, their people must have pure blood. Only the offspring born from the union of two Mulia people are the Mulia tribe, and the offspring born from the Mulia people and outsiders will not be recognized by their people. Therefore, if Zhang Xiu and Lu Wanting give birth to offspring in the Mulia village because of their ravages, girls will be raised, and after the age of 8, they will become sex slaves of the Mulia village like Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu. Boys will be kept temporarily. Once they are over 8 years old, they will be used as sacrifices to the ancestors when the Mulia tribe worships their ancestors. After being tied up, they will be thrown off the cliff. So, no matter whether the dead under the cliff are tourists or not, at least they are all blood debts owed by the Mulia tribe. Brother Hu was about to discuss with his people, assign personnel, and then launch a surprise attack on Wang Feng and his group, but saw Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu rushing towards them. Brother Hu and his group were overjoyed. They knew the temperament of those men outside. They loved to save face and act like heroes in front of women. Unlike in the Mulia tribe, women are just foils. They are their Mulia women. Their biggest role is to satisfy their desires and reproduce offspring. So, as long as they capture these two women, they don't have to bother to deal with the men. As long as they use these two women as threats, they can make the two men surrender. Brother Hu even thought about it. After using these two women to make Wang Feng and Su Mo surrender, he would take turns to play with Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu in front of them. Let these idiots outside know that only the men of Mulia are worthy of all the beautiful women in the world. However, Brother Hu and his thoughts were not finished before they were proved to be delusional by Lu Wanting and Zhang Xiu. The two women were like tigers entering a flock of sheep, and they beat all the guys, including Brother Hu, to the ground. Lu Wanting was okay, she was not so brutal, she just slapped them all the way. Anyone who was knocked down by Lu Wanting received 2 slaps, not only their faces were swollen like pig heads, but basically there were few teeth left. But compared to those who were attacked by Zhang Xiu, they were obviously quite lucky. Zhang Xiu was not so merciful, but she did not attack their faces. Because Zhang Xiu is a relatively quiet and reasonable girl. So she certainly knows the principle of not hitting someone in the face. Therefore, basically all the people knocked down by Zhang Xiu could not stand up. It's not that they can't stand up now, but they will never stand up again. Because their limbs have been broken and crushed, and they can't be reconnected in this life unless Wang Feng is willing to help. As for their 5th limb, it is not clear whether it was broken by Zhang Xiu, and Wang Feng and Su Mo are naturally not convenient to ask. At this time, a burst of car engine sound came from far away.